Hi, and this is welcome to section 2.7, which is about inequalities. Okay? And inequalities are what we know as like the alligator. So remember, the alligator likes to eat, say, the larger fish. So there's some terms you need to know. You need to know greater than. And greater than will be noted by that little alligator there. But we can also have greater than or equal to. And, and so we will denote it by the sign greater than or equal to. And then you can move on to less than, and that's denoted by changing the alligator's mouth direction. And then you have less than or equals to. Okay? So you will see equations with that inequality. It's like an equal sign, but it means it's an inequality. It covers a range of numbers. Okay? But the other thing we're going to do is graph. So when we graph on a number line, you're going to use two symbols. There's a couple symbols you can use. For greater than, it will be an open circle or parentheses. Greater than or equal to will be a closed circle or hard brackets. Same with less than, it will be an open circle. So if it doesn't have the equal sign, they're the same. And if they have the equal sign, they are the same. But they will be going different directions. So here is our first example. We need to be able to graph x is less than 3. So we are going to start with our number line. Here's our 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, so we are at 3. Well, let's go look at our inequality. This tells us it's an open circle. And in this section, you are going to have open circles or closed circles. I think in another section, we might have to use brackets, and that's why I showed you the brackets or the parentheses, but we'll just have to pay attention to what's going on. Okay, so now I would always label open circle when you see that inequality, or closed circle if you see the equal sign. So I'm going to go there at 3, open circle, and that reads x is less than 3. So if it's less than, I go this direction. And so I will fill it in. It'll be a darker line here. Going to the left. And you will, on your system, you will click the correct answer. Our next example is 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 5. Okay, again, we are going to graph this. So you can think of them as individuals. So you could think of it as 2 is less than or equal to x. So you come in, you have your number line. Here's our 0, 1, 2. There's 2. Okay, so at 2, I'm going to have an open circle or closed circle. Okay, and because x is greater, I'm going to go to the right. All right, so now I've got part of that, but now I need to look at x is less than 5. So I need to be able to graph the 5. So I got 2, 3, 4, 5. And there I need an open circle. So here's my open. But it says x is less than 5, so that means that it's going to go that direction. And it's only going to cover this area here where those two meet. Right, for this particular example. On other examples, the arrows could be going in the opposite directions, and that's just fine. That's not a problem. So there is that example. Now, well, how am I going to graph this? I don't have x by itself. In order to be able to graph the inequality or I need to solve the inequality and make sure that x is all by itself. So just like we have been doing this rest of this chapter, I need to get rid of that 3. And I'm going to get rid of that 3 by subtracting it from both sides of the inequality, leaving me x is less than or equal to -1. I come along, put in my 0, put in my -1, and I go, well, that tells me it's closed. It's a closed circle. All right, so at -1, I'm going to go this way. And now I'm going to look at my inequality here, and it reads x is less than -1. So that means I'm going to fill in the line this way. All right, our next example. It's a lot of numbers, but it's not really any different than when we had an equal sign, so don't forget that. So the first thing I want to do is get all the x's on one side of the equation, and I am going to do that by subtracting 7x from both sides of the equation. So that gives me x or 1x. You can write a 1 right there. That's just fine. Minus 3 is greater than -5. Okay, what do I still have with the x? Well, I have that -3, so I need to get rid of it. I'm going to add +3, +3, and now I know that x is greater than -2. And I can come here on my number line and go, well, there's 0, -2. Oh, and this tells me it is open. So I'm going to draw an open circle. X is greater than -2, so I'm going to go this way. And it's going to be a nice dark line on your computer screen. And so with a lot of these problems, you're going to have to do some solving and you're going to have to enter it in. When you guys enter this into your computer program, it's going to have a setup like this, for example, and then your box. Okay? You cannot go and just put the inequality in the number. You have to put the variables. So for this example, you would have to write in the box x inequality -2. Otherwise, the computer's going to go, I don't know what you're doing. It's not, you have to write the full inequality just like you have on your piece of paper. So just like I have over here, you have to put the whole thing in the box. Okay. So here's our next example. Here, just like we've done on anything else, I don't like that 3 in front of the x. So with that 3 in front of the x, that's attached by multiplication. So the opposite of that is division. I'm going to divide by 3 and divide by 3, leaving me x is less than 5. And then I'm going to come in. Here's my 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That tells me it is open. Okay, and x is less than 5, so I'm going that way, and it's going to be a nice dark line that way. All right, so there's another special rule that we have to bring in with inequalities. And what that rule deals with is if you multiply or divide by a negative number, the inequality changes directions. So here's for an example. I have -0.2x is less than or equal to 0.8. In order to get rid of that, I have to get rid of that -0.2. So I'm going to divide by -0.2, and I'm going to divide by -0.2. Therefore, leaving me x, and then my inequality has to change directions, and that becomes -4. And at this point, I'm hoping that you've got the concept of